Hey, welcome back to another episode of VC TV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here today to speak about investing in the new year. That is, investing in 2021. It's a little tongue twister. We went through a crazy wild year here in 2020. A lot changed. The first quarter was very different than the second and third quarters, even further different than Q4 here, where we've seen a ton of fundraising, from traditional fundraising to syndicates, all the way through the public markets and even into SPACs, these special purpose vehicles that have been created to take companies public, and so many other different things that we're going to be talking about here today on VCTV that you need to know about. How did 2020 end, or about to end, and how will we look at investing in the new year in 2021? Where will the opportunities be? And also, where will we be placing our bets, or where will we be shying away from? That's what we've brought the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you today. Their thoughts and insights and on-the-ground perspective of what they're seeing, looking ahead in their crystal balls to 2021. But before we get started, a big thank you for you to tuning in. If you're liking what you hear today, click that big red subscribe button to tune in all day, every day on all VCTV episodes, as we bring again the best and the brightest to share with you their thoughts and insights and on-the-ground perspective of different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, so you are up to date as an investor or as an entrepreneur on how to be successful and where to place your bets as you begin building and investing day after day, month after month, year after year. And entrepreneurs, there's also an opportunity for you here on VCTV, as we had some of our investor panelists and entrepreneurs last week join us on the virtual stage here at VCTV to pitch you our company product or service, and also have the chance to get real-time feedback along with building foundational relationships with each and every one of us and getting a chance to meet our entire community. What better way to end the year, start the next, than doing just that? Reach out to the team if you are interested in speaking or presenting as well, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. With that, a big thank you to the LA Token team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest, Jose, man of many hats. Loving the one you got today.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kyle. Thank you so much for having me on your show once more. So my name is Jose Graca. I'm a serial entrepreneur for a long time. I eventually became a business angel after my first exit, and then moved on and stranded into technology more or less 20 years ago. Became an advisor for government, and eventually I rolled into the VC world for a few years. Went back as an entrepreneur because I love also being an entrepreneur, and because it's more hands-on. Today I'm basically especially interested in business inclusion, everything which is related to it. The plan is to give equal opportunity to every individual on the planet. And I'm especially interested for talent that is proficient in AI, machine learning, or especially deep learning and neural networks that we can embed into the whole setup. So back to you, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jose. Pleasure as always. And Gianpaolo, welcome back as well. It's a pleasure. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you, Kyle. Welcome, everyone. My name is Gianpaolo Parigi. And actually, speaking about the crystal ball, I don't seem to recollect where I've left mine. So, I think we'll have to navigate by sight. I'm a serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist, chairman of a single family office, and board member in companies in 3 continents. And welcome, everybody. Back to you, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gianpaolo. Adrian, welcome back as well. A little intro, a little background.
Hello, Kyle. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me again today. I don't believe in crystal balls, but I believe in patterns. My name is Yva.ai. I am involved in few projects, CloudCoin Consortium, CloudCoin being a post-blockchain digital currency, Faster Capital, which is a Dubai-based accelerator and incubator for companies, and also I'm a mentor in Richard Branson's Virgin Startups. Happy to be here and to contribute.
Wonderful. Happy to have you. Noble, welcome as well.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Noble Dracone. I'm the author of the books Winning the Trading Game and Trade Like a Pro. I'm also the managing partner of Dracone Capital Partners, which is kind of an offshoot of my coming back into the world of VC and investments through my company, Whereplay Games, in which we build mobile apps and AR games and NFT games and the like. So happy to be here, guys.
Wonderful. NFT, dropping a hint as to what we might be looking at in 2021, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll come back to that in just a moment. Last but not least, the Grand Master of Artificial Intelligence himself, ladies and gentlemen, has joined us. Such a pleasure. Gary Fowler, welcome back.
It's great to be here, Kyle. It's great to see my friend, Gianpaolo, Noble. God, we've been on hundreds of these, Noble, huh? It's amazing. I feel like we're part of the family. If I don't get my, I feel like an addict. If I don't have my VCTV, I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
It's a lost day.
Jose's here. So anyhow, my name's Gary Fowler, serial entrepreneur, 16 companies, 2 unicorns, love artificial intelligence, and now quantum computing. So I'm really focused on quantum. I'm looking for startups from all over the world that are interesting and gone global. And of course, AI is the new electricity, data is a fuel, and 5G, 6G is a turbocharger, but quantum is a whole different ballgame. And that's what we're really interested. So I have GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI venture studio based in Silicon Valley. So that's where we are. And I have toilet paper too. So that's a good news.
2020 has been a hell of a year, ladies and gentlemen. If you do need toilet paper, you know where to go. There's your source. With that being said, Gary did tease out a few interesting technologies, 5-6G. He slipped 6G in there, and also talked about quantum. And to each of you, I'd like to bring that to the table as to what will investing look like next year, and really, where are the areas of opportunity? What's getting you excited looking ahead at 2021? 2020 has been a very interesting year. I would say and argue in some cases, investing hasn't changed that much, except for the introduction of really a flood of SPACs and those opportunities taking companies private to public a little earlier than anticipated. But outside of that, for each of you, what do you see investing looking like next year in 2021? Jose, let's start with you.
So definitely a continuing trend of what we have seen in 2020. I would focus deeply on artificial intelligence, deep learning. Quantum computing is still far away, but definitely the first steps are there. So I would not disregard that area in essence. There will be some exciting new things, I believe, especially I expect that some new type of blockchain may arise in 2021. The next generation. Definitely we will see also an acceleration on the digital currencies, more government managed, but maybe some new type of digital currency also private issued. And that said, you know, I would definitely focus on everything which is related to technology, but there are some alternative opportunities. Which is basically not in our area, but definitely I've been reading about it for quite a long time. And I would not underestimate it, like the new type of housing that we will need and the new type of developments in that area. Also, I would say the next generation of domotics, which will make these houses much more efficient than they are today, which is still very bad. You know, the technology is here for a long time already, like maybe like 20 years, but 10 years in applicable environment, but still, you know, you don't see a lot of things in housing development related to domotics. So that's definitely a special area. And in science, I would say there are some very, very interesting things going on, especially carbon related. Okay. And that could be a real breakthrough for humanity, but I leave that maybe for a little bit later. And like to hear one of the other panel members really excited about to see what they are going to say.
Jose dropping a cliffhanger right there. Well, thank you very much. I think, Gary, I'm going to come to you next. I mean, Jose's teasing out AI, quantum, deep tech, and also housing. These are all areas you focus on. But as you're looking to 2021, how do you see the investing landscape shifting and changing? What's getting you excited?
Yeah, I mean, so I just wrote an article in Medium and I put in a talk about the 5 top tech trends for 2021. I just wrote it like 3 days ago. So, again, AI, because we got so much data around us that we need to make sense of that data. And more importantly, we need to be able to act on that data. And we have to have systems in place that can act on that data for us, unsupervised artificial intelligence. So, and then I talk about it, part of this comes from my own background in Yva, but think about it. This pandemic is not, we don't see an end on the horizon for it. And we've got a lot of people that are working remotely and how to be able to manage them more efficiently and effective. I just had a friend of mine told me that his wife's company now is managing that all their computers have a device so they can watch you while you're working on your computer. So they can monitor you using AI while you're working on your computer, like visually see you and look at the behavior, make sure you're getting stuff done. So, but we're going to see a lot of companies that aren't as intrusive as that are really there to help make it just more efficient and effective. So I see a lot of that continuing through the end of 2021 and longer. I don't think companies are going to go back. They understand what some of the benefits are, or many of the benefits of using remote workers and remote employees. I mean, my business at Yva at the beginning of the pandemic was up 38x. So it's that kind of push. But on the other side of it, we talk about cybersecurity and the challenges that we have going forward. With some of these interesting new technologies, we've got challenges. When quantum computer comes into play, it's going to be a whole new game. But now we need to use artificial intelligence as a tool. So I see that cybersecurity is going to be more focused on. Banks, we're now, because of all the challenges of not being physically to be able to go into banks, institutions in terms of doing stuff online, but now we've got to be a lot more protected than we're ever been before. So I'm really excited about that. And I talk about automation across the board. Companies like banks and insurance companies using more chat box to be able to help so you can get through. Technology is evolving even for us, all the people that are working home today. I mean, it's kind of funny. We joke about the toilet paper, but desks, paper, pens, all kinds of things are really not so easy to get. It's really amazing. Go to IKEA and look at their corner desk, because I just tried to get one. I've been trying to get one for 3 months for my wife. You can't get them. It's like hard. So the simple things are really hard to get. And so we're going to see some of the fundamentals move forward because people are working at their house and becoming much more efficient at doing it. Think about how much time, I know we talk about it, Kyle, in Silicon Valley, it takes me up to 2 hours to go to my office each way every day. And if I don't, unless I go 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30, could be a 2-hour drive. So I end up going early and I end up staying late. I don't get home generally to between 10 and 11 o'clock at night because I got to wait to about 7:38 to get out. So, and then by the time I stop and get something to eat, by the time I get home, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock. Then I'm back up again at 6 o'clock in the morning to do it one more time. It's like Groundhog Day. So we're just much more efficient, right? Today, working out of the house, there's a lot of, in the beginning, there were a lot of disadvantages, but you got the right kind of setup, a comfortable chair, you got your notebook, and look at notebooks. I mean, they've been flying off the shelves. I bought my Mac right at the beginning of the pandemic because I knew it was going to happen. And my wife said, well, you don't need another one. You got 5. But I said, I need this one because I need a better camera. So, but I mean, that's it. So technologies are going to help us to be able to network with our coworkers better cameras, better systems, because now we've not going to be in the office. We're going to be home, and the home, we need to make sure we have the right bandwidth for the internet so that we can communicate with our offices properly.
Which brings up also an interesting question, is there are some companies, including Comcast, that are already putting in place caps for 2021 be due to the extreme usage. But we're going to pause on that for just a second. Gianpaolo, I want to come over to you. 2021, what does investing look like for you going into the new year?
I agree with Gary pretty much. Everything is going to be the same as it was in 2020. Yeah, we will have probably some, hope with the vaccine coming out, and so possibly the pandemic rate will slow down. But I think in terms of investments, there will be a very tactical. Still, it's not a strategic year; it's a tactical year, and what was bullish this year will be bullish next year if technology, obviously, above everything. Of course, logistics. I mean, in retrospect, if you had invested 3 years ago in gaming and pharma, today you would have had, a hell of a bull run, with your returns. But again, crystal balls aren't really handy. So the reality, I don't see really a lot of changes as it comes. At the end of the year, and we're approaching the new one. I think it's going to be the business as usual with the roller coaster we're all on, but that's part of, navigating. You can't imagine an ocean without waves or air without turbulence. It's part of the context. So you take it, for granted. And I think there's a lot of silver lining since we have lost millions of human lives to the pandemic. I think we want to see more than just one good silver lining. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and technology really, it cannot be straddled, but definitely it can give acceleration to anyone that participate, either as a developer, as a user, or as an investor. So there's a lot to be said over there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gianpaolo. And Noble, to you, same question. What does investing look like for you in 2021?
It's so multifaceted. I agree, with the panelists that the trajectory of what's going on with the pandemic is not going to change significantly in how people operate. And I think for the most part, it's going to be a permanent transition for most people to be working remotely. It's just becoming more and more apparent whether the corporations need to continue to invest in large commercial real estate and basically warehouse and babysit people. And it also is reverberated back down to the children too. What does education look like in the next 2 years, in the next 24 months? You have two subsets of kids, ones that have been on trajectory and during self-study and being able to receive all the resources necessary. And then you also have children who are they can't really be promoted successfully to the next grade because there's been a disconnect in the level of education for them. And so I believe really a lot of the ed tech that's coming into next year is going to be a significant push across all spectrums, making kids both competitive and capable to go on and be promoted, and to help those children who need supplemental education. So we've made just a big bet on ed tech. We've got a couple of companies that we've invested in. One just got entrepreneurial board game of the year. And so we're developing also in-house their second iteration for it being a web completely only project. So we're very happy for this particular portfolio company. And then the next component is that, there's something that's gone on with the Securities Exchange Commission that we followed very, very carefully. They've increased what crowdfunding looks like. They've increased the CF from 1 million to 5 million. They've changed the definition of what an accredited investor looks like. And now they're looking at different ways to allow non-brokers to receive commissions and participation fees for introducing investors to projects. We work with over 30 to 40 companies a year that, even though they may not become portfolio companies, we help them find and raise capital. And so this is a significant change in allowing entrepreneurs to be accessible to both public capital as well as high-end accredited investors such as family offices, private equity groups, and pools. So we've been fully entrenched in that space in an aggressive way. And so new ideas are popping up. They're getting funding. They're getting access to funding. And so companies like Start Engine, great. If you've seen it, they've actually started doing secondary trading on their own personal stock as well as other companies. You have groups like WeFunder, which are coming back in a big way. And so the idea of crowdfunding, when it started off nascently, was kind of a fringe idea, but I believe 2021 will see it become a highly aggressive idea and open up the pool of investment to new ideas and projects in a way that most people could never imagine, because most investors are looking for that alternative. You know, they've been trained to look for the next Uber, the next Airbnb, and they've missed out, you know, the next Impossible Burger. And so more and more of these platforms are delaying the length of time before companies become unicorns. And we're literally knee deep in that. We've got over 900,000 accredited investors in our database. We've created a whole entire system in that space, and we've been very excited about that. And then finally, in the gaming space, gaming has to give people the ability to trade their time for money. You know, we're looking at a set of millennials that have very few job prospects and very few opportunities to gain and grow wealth. And in that particular space, the intersection between gaming, blockchain, non-fungible tokens has been very, very aggressive. And on the surface, non-fungible tokens seems to be just another DeFi kind of money game, but it really has some long legs to it. When people who are playing games are able to actually own the assets in the games that they're playing, that the time and energy they're spent to acquire these special side quests and weapons and guns or characters, when they're able to do that and then be able to port them to themselves and trade amongst each other, it creates a whole entire collectible economy that could have never been imagined before. It's already $7 billion strong and has been aggressively growing prior to the NFT concept, in which people were selling skins, sharing items. And now with the NFTs actually being able to track it on the blockchain, that gives and empowers a whole set of millennials who up until this day could not really afford a home to be able to show and build wealth. And that gives NFTs the ability to be staked, allow for DeFi opportunities to be lent on, for them to be able to trade amongst each other, various cryptos and altcoins. And so that really is a big space coming to 2021 that we're very aggressively been in. And so along those three spectrums, I think that there's so many opportunities for investors. You know, there will be losers, there'll be winners, but at the end of the day, those are really the three aggressive areas that we're looking at right now.
And those are some very interesting points too. I did some reading over the weekend around the gaming space and ownership of those individual assets, and then trading time for money. I think there's a lot to be had there, and it's going to be an exciting year in 2021 to see that come to fruition, if that's the beginning, or if it's just the very, very early days still to be had. And Adrian, to you, 2021, what does investing look like for you?
First, being a personal development guy, I have a lot of motivational stuff in my office. So life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It is about learning to dance in the rain. So I wanted to highlight 5 things about 2021. First, we'll see in practice digital currencies issued by governments. We'll see more of an IPO bubble. We saw last week 2 IPOs, DoorDash, which had a fantastic year, but still is not profitable. And also Airbnb. We saw the IPO of Airbnb, which showed a little bit of greed from the entities who made this possible. Of course, this is a subjective observation. And we'll see more of that in 2021. We'll see more of tokenization of stocks and tokenization of assets, all in one fintech and crypto platforms, enhanced blockchain and post-blockchain technologies like radar, and big developments in the security of the digital assets. From the investments point of view, I see more opportunities for the little guys to get in touch with the big guys, because the gatekeepers are not there anymore, because um, even the people who only asked for person-to-person meetings before now are open for a Zoom call to find out about the next opportunity. And my advice is not to become lazy no matter what, and work harder and smarter than ever.
Very good advice. And I want to thank you, Adrian. I want to switch gears with
welcome.
something that you actually just brought up. We had a few companies go public recently, DoorDash, Airbnb, and there's been several others, and still more to come based on the announcements. But M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Would love to hear each of your thoughts quickly on what the M&A landscape looks like in 2021. My personal opinion is it's going to be absolutely crazy town. There is going to be a ton of mergers and acquisitions over the next year, more than we saw at the Q4 this year. And just to end the year, or again, we still got a few weeks left, but last night, Reddit actually dropped news that they were going to buy TikTok's rival Dub Smash in a new push towards video and integrating video into the Reddit community and platform. That's a huge acquisition for such a company, and that's not only the only one we've seen here in the past week. So to each of you, acquisitions, mergers and acquisitions, what do you see happening? Maybe one space or another that you might get a little bit excited about going into 2021. Jose?
Definitely in the area of super apps, because that's where we're going. You will see a lot of movements in bigger companies acquiring smaller companies, but we may get some surprises in some smaller companies joining together, trying to buy a bigger company. So it's not uncommon that we're going to get some new trends on that. Nevertheless, I wanted to point out two other things that I left out during my first intro. I think that's a very important one. One is that we definitely need to look at graphene, because that's the carbon compound that I was talking about, because that carbon compound will enable like 3 million layers, okay, on 1 millimeter. Now, what does that mean? That means that finally we have a substitute, more or less, on a nano level for, let's say, what today is silicon. And that will enable, eventually, the way I see it, the technology for quantum computing. Because talking about quantum computing is very nice, right? And a bunch of things. But eventually, we also need to understand that although we know more or less how it works, and we have been using several types of materials, but we have not been able to come up with the real adequate material to make it happen. And graphene, in my opinion, is the material that can support it. It's quite in already. What I mean is that it's very hard to make it. Okay, it's easy to access it, but very hard to make it. It has some very interesting things that we should analyze, like it's harder than diamond, stronger than steel, more flexible than rubber. Okay, and it has so many nice, let's say, conditions about that material that you could even have, bend it completely. That also means that, for example, for small devices, okay, to fit it in is fantastic material. It's not only applied to technology, it can also be applied to many other areas, but this is what I would like to leave here so that everybody thinks about it. I believe strongly that in the next 1 to 3 years, maybe even next year, that we will see a jump forward, because scientists have been working on this, and there are some patents already out there for quite some years to get the job done. Okay, so we will get a breakthrough sooner or later. Another thing that I see very exciting is that we finally are going to get into a, let's say, low-code development, moving into a people's development of coding. Now, what is so exciting about this movement? Especially for me, I really love the subject, because a lot of people today that know how processes work, that understand how people look at things, how they manage it, right? They are not coders. Okay, and getting into a coder's mindset, I can tell you, after 20 years of developing software, is not an easy task, and patching those codes is another headache. So the issue is that if we get into people's development and we are able to code essentially like 99% by drag and drop, then a completely different thing happens. It means that the coders of today, they will move into a different type of coding layer, let's say more high end, okay? Obviously, a lot of them will fall out, but you will get a lot of keen talent, really good talent that knows how people's mindset work, how they like things, you know, that today are the guidelines, come up with the guidelines to build those products. They will become coders themselves, and they will be able to instruct other people that are not coders to join that process and get those products out to the public. That will be going much faster than we can even imagine. I could even say that maybe we're going to get software development like at least 100 times faster than we get out today. Okay, so I'll leave it like that. And M&A, okay, in my opinion, will also go in that direction.
All right. Thank you, Jose. Gianpaolo, M&A, what does it look like for you, from your view, excuse me, in 2021?
Yeah, thank you, Carl. You know, much as I think, you know, the year is going to go pretty much like this one, because, you know, the pandemic will not be resolved next year, I definitely concur that there's going to be, a volley of M&A deals. And for one primary reason, there's going to be some minor adjustment in the international geopolitical scenario. What with the change in the U.S. administration, you know, some scenarios will veer over a few clicks, but those variations will be enough for investors to have to train their turrets on different targets, and there will be a lot of tectonic movements because of that. As I say, maybe it's not going to be the big bang yet, but it's going to be, increased activity as a result. So, I expect to see still in the, mainstream of course, the leading verticals that we have had these years in terms of industry sectors, but I still expect to see some new verticals opening up and some increased activity in some of those verticals as a result of the geopolitical changes that we are going to definitely see next year, because there are a number of nuts that have been left to be addressed, if not resolved, by governments internationally. And I think next year is going to be a good year to start, addressing some of those, ties and knots left behind. So that will provoke, probably the removal of some of the bottlenecks. So the beginning of the removal of some of the bottlenecks with ensuing increased M&A activity. Absolutely.
Thank you. And Gary, to you, same question. Thank you, Gianpaolo.
Yeah, so can you repeat the question one more time, Kyle? The M&A activity?
M&A activity going into 2021. I mean, right now we're seeing that a lot of this happening in the consolidation of Q3, Q4, and it sounds like it's just going to increase again with Reddit's late night, Sunday evening announcement of an acquisition that's pretty impactful for their business moving forward. And also we've seen a number of others come out this year. Going into 2021, do we see, or do you see, pardon me, a change in this M&A climate? Do you see more? Do you see it aggressive? Where do you see it going as well, especially again with SPACs? As we mentioned, a number of companies have come into the public market, and some of them you still may be able to get in an acquisition spree for pennies on the dollar as to what they might have been worth otherwise. So there you go.
Well, I mean, I can only tell you based on, my own experience with my company. So the corporate development people are aggressive right now. So we're getting quite a few calls, quite a few emails, contacts. So I see them as being very aggressive. So does that mean the M&A activity is going to be hot? I would say, yeah, it's up a lot from last year. In terms of the SPACs, absolutely. I mean, it's I just wrote an article 3 or 4 weeks ago about SPACs, but I mean, the situation, absolutely. So I see the M&A activity this year based on my experience with the corporate dev people up. I don't know how much it's going to be, 15, 20%. But it's a different world. We got shocked to the core during March, and we've been shocked through August, September. So everything was at a standstill. And oh, by the way, it's gone back that way again. So, although I believe that corporate development folks are more accustomed to it and they still need to do their jobs. So I think that, part of the reason it's going to go up is because we were so slow for 6 months.
That's a good point. And I'd like to go to Noble on this one next. I mean, Noble, you come from both sides of the table, right? From the private and the public markets, but also looking at sitting in between that M&A side. Where do you see M&A going in 2021?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, Kyle. I think I have to take a different view. We see these last end of the year Hail Marys happening. Reddit finally, for the first time ever, really released their true numbers, and they are literally the worst performing social media platform in comparison to any of its other competitors. This particular acquisition was, in my opinion, after trading for 28 years, almost a Hail Mary to give it the ability to look like it has relevance going into the future. So I don't really see their acquisition as a positive. It was not a strong company acquiring a strong company because they're great. It's really a way to make Reddit look better because their numbers are dismal. So that's a different perspective I have on it. And I think one of the things that really needs to be discussed is how coming into a democratic, no matter what your politics are, but coming into a potential democratic regime, October really laid the foundation when you had them scrutinizing Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google as anti-competitive companies who have done nothing but build themselves up 100%. You have Facebook facing an antitrust lawsuit coming up. You have someone like SoftBank talking about getting off the public markets. One of the original quote unquote, if not, you don't want to call it a SPAC, but that's really what they developed into. You have SoftBank talking about going from public to private. So I believe that there is space for a M&A to come into next year, but I think it's going to be cautiously optimistic in how that evolves, particularly when you look at the four big giants being aggressively attacked to break up. And so it's one of those things where I'm looking more of it as a trader in this instance, that where are the opportunities in any potential breakup? What are the sub companies that will evolve potentially out of Facebook? Even in the face of the trust suit, Facebook did a huge acquisition. So it's not that people are not acquiring, but I'm just kind of curious what the climate will be in receptivity to that. And will more M&As be scrutinized? Will there be more discouragement leading into a new administration in the US? And so there's been kind of these telegraphing signals that how acquisitions are being done is not acceptable, with the idea that small innovation is being squelched out. And so whatever acquisitions and M&As that do occur are going to have to be able to present a face that they are creating and fermenting growth and are really doing their acquisitions in such a way that they're not stymieing innovation and opportunity, because that's really the key, that all the small businesses that are trying to come up in the space also have to have the ability to breathe and develop and not be absorbed before they get there. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the government really plays out with this Facebook antitrust suit, because even Facebook said, you guys just approved that we were okay not too long ago, and now you're flip-flopping on your position. And so will there be congruence in that? And I think a lot of people who are smart in M&A have been aggressive in trying to get under the radar right now as quickly as possible before any different kind of rulings or things change over the next 4 years. So I think there'll be a quick boost of M&A, but everyone's going to keep a watchful eye on what SoftBank does, what this antitrust suit against Facebook really means, and overall how to navigate and kind of bulletproof themselves from any scrutinization down the road. So I think there'll be mergers and acquisitions, but they'll be very, for lack of a better word, they'll be very kind M&As. They won't be ones in which there'll be overly aggressive, a loss of innovation along the way, like a lot of M&As end up doing.
It's a good point, and I've actually got a few lightning round questions for each of you based on some of these responses. This is a good conversation looking into the new year. Gary, I want to start with you. Quantum computing. You threw this out there. You slipped in 6G as if no one would notice. But quantum computing, I want to focus on. For investors and or founders that are looking to get into this industry going into 2021, what advice do you have for them into the next year?
Well, I mean, we're at the beginning of this revolution that's going to take place. It's going to change everything. So when you take quantum and AI, it's an entirely different plan. I almost said universe, but probably right. So we're in an entirely different world. And when you get systems that are 10,000, 100,000, a million times faster than a conventional computer, it's going to change things, or 100 million times faster. So the investment, now the situation, I would look close to where the research is being done, primarily in universities. I would look to areas around those universities, research triangles, around Cambridge University, and look at the companies coming out of there, because that's where you start to see the first companies that could be interesting on the quantum side. And I love, the more I write about it, the more, I just got quoted in Next Quantum Computer magazine. So it's kind of funny actually, but it is the time. It's a beginning. This is like the begin. This is, as we said, like the beginning of the 20th century. AI is a new electricity, but this is like, the Model T, AI is a new electricity, and the telephone all at the same time. So it's a different world these days. So look for around university town. It's a great time to invest if you get in early. It's not defined yet. There's still questions around quantum computers, but what you want to do is look for good teams that have something. And if they have some partnerships in place with large companies, could be interesting. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, Twitter, Gary Fowler. I've had my show every week. In fact, Noble's going to be on my show tomorrow. So it's great. You can check me out. I'd love to hear from startups, and especially ones in AI and quantum computers. So get a hold of me. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Gary. Jose, to you, fintech. What do investors and founders need to know looking into 2021 of where and how to place their bets in fintech?
So in financial technology, we have been facing, I would say, a big problem, which is also a solution. It's not only bad, which is regulation. And although regulation is very hard for the fintech companies, because it's always changing, including for banks, and it costs a lot of money. But it's, I would say, a necessity at the same time, because if we would not have all those regulations in place, the security and how things are handled also is not so good. So it's a trade-off. We will come to a trade-off, and I definitely see probably some very nice movements in that area, because I strongly believe that once the national banks will come into this digital currency, probably that the regulation will also need to change a lot and become more flexible. And if that happens, then we see a breach, and things will go more speedy. So you can find me on LinkedIn, essentially, Jose Graça, or you can look up BizMoney, because that's where we are planning the BizMoney inclusion. And you can also find me here on VCTV. I would say, just click on that button, and you're in contact.
Thank you, Jose. Adrian, to you, blockchain, digital currencies, fintech. What do investors need to know going into next year, in addition to what Jose just mentioned?
Basically, I will look into the startups which will be able to enhance the security of the digital assets, because the security is a major concern. I saw a post yesterday on LinkedIn about the current blockchain unicorns. There were a lot of big companies there which were effectively started from scratch. So I'm looking to see a new wave of such companies which will be able to quantum leap. I like very much this word and its implementation, a quantum leap it's very interesting to see what impact will have if the coin issued and rebranded by Facebook will come into the reality. What you mentioned earlier about the M&A activity, I believe that in the tech space, the M&A volume and activity will be highly influenced by the outcome of the current legal actions, the antitrust and taxation against the monopoly of Facebook, Google, and other giants. And also, I'm looking at how will become successful and profitable the all-in-one platforms, which will be built around the customers to offer them fiat, crypto, lending, and all the other services like the 360 degrees services built around those customers and their needs, anticipating their needs. And I believe that they will be the winners in the fintech and blockchain space.
Thank you, Adrian. Noble to you. What do investors need to know from the gaming sector and or NFTs quickly as they look to 2021?
There's not much to say. Invest. People continue to look at gaming as a fringe business, but it really is the core level of entertainment. Disney's proven it, that they're taking major movies and shows and delivering it directly on streaming. Shows that entertainment knows where they have to compete, and they have to compete against people's eyeballs in the gaming space. There's so many people who casually play games, so many people who actively pay major games that are more expensive than films. So yeah, invest. It's easy to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn at Noble Dracone. You can find me on Twitter at Dracone. And of course, you can always find me on VCTV on LA Token. I got a little nice profile up there. I like my picture. So just reach out to me. I'm always there to talk to anyone, both investor and founder, if they make sense.
Wonderful, thank you. And Giampaolo, close us out. In addition to everything that's been said, anything else to add, but also for family offices, what should they be thinking about looking at 2021 in terms of their investment thesis and where they may and may not want to place their bets?
Well, if you're talking about technology, I wouldn't say it's so much the what that it would be relevant, but the how investors approach this new era that we're living in. I mean, we are already full speed into the age of singularity, and things are changing at a pace that our mind cannot fathom anymore. And because when you take into consideration, what supercomputing can do, it defies any definition. So I would suggest any investors that want to venture in this fantastic realm to come with humility and brace for being bewildered, amazed, and sometimes belittled. And I think, you have to advance naked, leave behind your conventional beliefs in what investing in other verticals may have taught you, because what we are going to see is anything like we have seen in the past. Really, it's going to be completely different. Of course, fundamentals would apply, but things would be different. It's just like shifting from classical physics to quantum physics. You have to abandon everything that you have learned, and if you don't think it's weird what you're going to experience, well, there's something wrong with you, because it's weird. It's going to be odd and weird, but again, it's extremely fascinating. So we have to learn new skills, retrain and retool ourselves as investors, but it's beautiful. Thank you, everyone. And you can find me, Giampaolo Parigi, all over the media, on LinkedIn, on my website, giampaoloparigi.com, on Instagram, Twitter. With that, back to you, Kyle.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts and insights. 2021 is going to be a wild, crazy, and exciting year, to Giampaolo's point as well. So stay tuned as we talk more about it here on VCTV and bring the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you their thoughts and insights as to what may be happening and the predictions for 2021 around different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. Make sure if you do reach out to, and when you do reach out to all of our investors today, you add context to your reach out. Let them know where you found them, where you heard them, and why you want to reach out. And if you'd like to be on a show like today, do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to have you either as an investor to share your thoughts and insights, or as an entrepreneur to join us on the virtual stage. With that, a big thank you to the LA Token team and to Maria for making VCTV possible all day, every day for you and bringing us all together from around the world. And if you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up to stay tuned in more episodes of VCTV. Thank you, Jose and Adrian and Gianpaolo. We'll be back here shortly with a little bit more VCTV for you. Thank you, Noble. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Again,